this Charm Inspiration Days, to the second day of this Charm Inspiration Week, actually, with an introduction to the pilot projects of Woonbedrijf from Eindhoven and Accord. My name is Ad Straub. I'm from the Technical University of Delft. That's the lead partner of Charm. And probably you all know, because you probably were also present yesterday in this session, or of course you did hear more about Charm, or you have had a look at the website or the Twitter account, etc. But the objectives of Charm are to demonstrate innovative approaches, and we are doing that, the 4 housing associations, in, let's say, circular pilot projects. But of course, it shouldn't be kept to those pilot projects. So we want to learn lessons for the whole, probably for the standard procedures within the housing associations for follow-up circular projects within those organizations, and of course also abroad within all housing associations across Europe, and especially because Interreg Northwest Europe is the funder of this program, of course, especially in Northwest Europe, those countries. Yeah, and I think I don't have to mention the importance of a Charm, or especially all kinds of research projects about circularity in the housing sector, because the construction sector is responsible for a lot of waste and for a lot of resource use, for a lot of use of virgin materials. And we want to downsize that. We want to make use of available materials. And of course, the social housing sector has a key position in the EU, especially in those research projects. Yeah, they always look to the social housing sector as a professional organizations that can have a lead within those transitions, and yeah, come up with good follow-up solutions. And in this project of Charm, the partners, in the next slide, are of course Accord in the UK, the TU Delft in Delft, and 3 other housing associations yesterday, Paris Habitat from Paris, and Zonnige Kempen from Westerlo, Kempen in Belgium, Flanders, told us about their retrofit projects. Today, Woonbedrijf from Eindhoven and Accord. And other partners are Camp C, also in Flanders, helping Zonnige Camping with their project. University of Birmingham, related, linked to the work of Accord. And very important partner within this project, European Federation for Living, AFL, our communication partner, to communicate the lessons learned, especially to the housing associations in Northwest Europe. And those lessons learned are, in the first place, the lessons from the demonstration projects, and about reusing materials, and also about design for disassembly. I keep it to those words. We have today 2 presenters. One presenter from Woonbedrijf, Marieke van den Wijngaard, about the pilot project of Woonbedrijf, and Carl will tell about the pilot from Accord. I ask you, if you have questions during the presentations, ask them in a chat, and afterwards we will ask the presenters about those issues. And that's all. So I keep, hopefully Marieke can share her screen and tell us more about the project in Eindhoven.
Thank you, Ad. I will share my screen. I hope it works. Oh, I'm not allowed to share my screen.
So should be able to now. I've just changed something.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh. If it's possible, do you see now my complete screen or with my notes?
Very good.
Okay. No, thank you. I would like to take you into our journey to build newly built social housing. And we started our journey with the fact that we got some insight how much waste we were bringing to the waste dump every year. It was a lot of tons, but if you make it visible, it was 2 trailers per dwelling per year. So we have 30,000 dwellings. So if you try to make 60,000 trailers, that's a lot of waste. So that came first to our realization that we had to do something. And we had 2 goals. First, our goal was, can we develop circular housing with our own materials, maybe raw or direct use of elements of our existing buildings? Can we use those components of our demolished buildings or for maintenance in our newly buildings? And if not, can we use them bio-based? And if that's not possible, then at least use new materials that are in the future still have a closed loop in the recycling system. But we had another goal. This is just a picture of some of our tenants. Especially want to have that our tenants average accept those circular buildings. Maybe they have to live different in them, or maybe it is different because it's not from concrete but from another material. So acceptance of our circular buildings by our tenants is a big part in our journey and challenge. We can't do this alone, so we need a lot of stakeholders and partners. And in the picture on your left hand, you see the 7 tenants that are co-developing this project, and you see them also on the right picture where they try to develop the most efficient floor plan for housing. And the special thing is that we can also the first 2 years of them living in those dwellings, we can follow them. They give us feedback. How do they live in these houses? So we can develop the product of circular housing even more with their feedback. But why do all those partners? Because there are more partners. Below you see some of the building construction partners, an architect, IMBO, social architect, and Van Liemt and Baatse, that are 2 demolishing partners. One has the raw materials and one has the demolished products. We have an agreement with them that they can, that we work together in the discovery of how to use all those products. But why do they join? I think they can best tell them themselves.
Oh yeah, Marika, you just need to share your computer video, audio.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I will. How, Tom?
In the top right, there should be an option, and there's like different options for share computer audio and optimize for video sharing.
Oh, that's different now.
It's kind of to the top right of your share screen.
Yeah, but I have now
could also be in Dutch, I guess.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. And I'm out of the and I'm out of the Zoom in. There it is.
You got it. And you can optimize for
so.
video as well, which might help as well. Which is the one next to it or underneath it.
No, I can't find it. Sorry.
Okay.
Stop. Because I'm sharing screen and I have 2 screens, and now I'm confused a bit.
Okay.
Sure.
You could go to screen a second, and then, or maybe that would knock you out of your presentation actually.
I think I will. There it is. Maybe stop video. No, share. Pause share. More. No, I can't find. It is subtitled, so I think most of them are English. So read the subtitles. If I can't find it, maybe we can do it at the end.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
You can see all people have different. These were the future tenants, but also the constructor, the architect from the demolition company. So you see that they have different intentions of how to join. But maybe even if you're just looking for a house, maybe that's the most relevant information you can get. They are not the front runners on circular building. They are just looking for a house and want to live somewhere very comfortably and nice. The project exists of 18 circular social housings. I used my Dutch presentation from yesterday and I forgot to change two words. And we want to develop them in co-creation with our tenants. Different dwellings for 1 and 2 person households and families. So we want to have a mix of different households. We can stay on the first location for 5 years. And then reassemble to a permanent location. So assemble and disassemble is a main part of our project. We have to. And one thing that it has to be scalable. So this is our 18 houses, but our normal project exists of at least 50 houses. So can we scale everything we learn up to a normal project size? For the location, I think most of you are maybe not known in Eindhoven. Eindhoven is a big Philips city with main industrial areas from former Philips sites, and Stripe S is one of them. It is in development for, I think, at least 15 years now. And the most funny thing maybe it is that some of the existing buildings are used for different functions. So it used to be an industrial site and now people live in them. So maybe that's the best way of circular building you can find, at least for the construction of it. Here you can see on your left right hand, there's a little building that was the installation room of the big clean rooms of Philips and later Amazon. And on this place we can build our nice development. But I think we fit right into this area because it is a combination of newly built and reuse of existing buildings. Now, I think most of you these maybe sound familiar, but besides the natural step, that's the framework we as company use to develop our sustainability goals. We also here use the 10R strategy and the 6S models to a brand to help us to rethink everything what we do and classify it. Are we doing the best thing we can do right now? And maybe this is our main motive. Keep asking why you do things, because I have experience of 20 years in building stone buildings, concrete buildings. But if we do it the same way, then we don't solve this problem. So ask why. Why are you doing things? Why do you need this? Why can't we use something else we already have? And if you keep on asking these questions to yourself as a project team, you can develop a different way of thinking. And some of us have parents or grandparents they used to work in construction. And we, a lot of times we ask ourselves, how would they have done it? Because they were working in the construction world before we had all the synthetics and stuff. And maybe that simpler solution helps us in creating the buildings. There's a but, because rules and regulations enhanced a bit during the time they worked in construction and we worked it. So we have to look if we can adapt their methods. With the building, we started in to use a modular system of 6 by 6 square meters. And with that modular system, we want to make a system that we can, in future times, maybe reattach to each other. So we make from 2 S's a M, so we can reuse elements, complete elements of the building. So not only the materials, but also complete components like bathroom areas or kitchen areas. We can make a lot of different houses from it. Most of our houses will be an S and an M variety, which is about 65, an M 65 square meters. Maybe, and what materials are you going to use? Now, the base material of our development will be wood. And I think we have that in common with Accord. He will tell you more about it. They are more experienced with it than us, but wood as a bio-based material is the main building material. And besides that, we want to reuse some of the materials we have from our own stock. So for instance, there are some stairs outside. We can reuse them from our own stocks. We are looking in the reuse of radiators from heating systems. We are working together with the Technical University and Bribus for a circular kitchen. And maybe our little gag between Accord and Woonbedrijf is that we are using pretty plastic, recycled plastic facade tiles to cover our facade. And that's made of recycled plastic of the good thing that Accord doesn't want to use anymore, but unfortunately already exists a lot of it in the world. So we have to do something with it. So it's good that we have multiple strategies for that. Maybe some challenges and lessons from our first part of the fraud. Financial, this project is a challenge. It's a lot more expensive, and in the Netherlands we are capped with rent. We are allowed to ask our tenants. So if we have to invest more, then we have to take more money for ourselves, or not take it for ourselves, lose more money. It may be the things. I think it's still really a challenge to estimate the future value. I did not enter that yet in my financial assumptions, but we make the assumption that the materials have a value at the end of the lifespan, and I think they do. But what is that value, and how can I convince my financial colleagues that the value I say is a good guess or an accurate guess? Most of lessons learned, it's a big discovery, and you have to be open to that. If you don't feel comfortable getting in the unknown world of some parts of materials of building in a different way, then maybe it's not the best time for you to enter in the first project. Join us in the second project, but maybe you can be the critical voice for us. That's also a good one we need. For us, building apartments with bio-based and circular materials gave us some challenges on fire safety and impact sound, because it's a lot lighter than we used to build with concrete, where all those problems are solved in an instant. But with bio-based, lighter weight materials, we had a bit more challenge with that. Our knowledge of circular material increased a lot. When I first started this project, I knew a bit about it, but yeah, you have to learn more about it because you have to get that knowledge together. There's no one who has all the knowledge yet, so we have to combine everyone's knowledge together. The next time I have a project, I think I can determine the criteria much better because of the knowledge we gathered now. And I think one of the challenges is how to reuse building components on a larger scale. That was one of our main goals. And we can do it in an inner scale, but is it possible to do it even in a larger scale so that we can use a bigger percentage of the materials from our own stock instead of maybe using bio-based materials? That was my story for now. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Marike, for this clear presentation about glaskring. Probably you can answer the question from Tom direct. And he asked in the chat, how will cross-laminated timber CLT help with the wall build-up?
I know it's a difficult one at the moment, but yeah.
I'm going to get the chat in my site, and I can use it. Now we didn't use CLT in this part. We used I think it's called in English timber frames. It could have helped because we looked into cross-laminated timber, but it's also a lot more expensive. And maybe on hindsight, we crossed off that method, that building method. But maybe in hindsight, with all the knowledge we entered later, maybe it could have gone a different way, because it helps you in fire resistance because of the big size you have.
Okay, yeah, cool. So yeah, maybe if you were going for like a 7-story building or something, then you would go for it, or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, yeah, because that's probably having a call as well. You can't build that tall with that structural method.
Okay,
thank you. I think more questions will follow.
There was also another one.
I see one more. I see another question. What is the most important barrier to your circular economy principles?
Large question.
Yeah, that's a really big question.
What was the most important barrier for Woonbedrijf?
I think the most important barrier is still money. Because it's a lot more expensive, and if you are working on social housing, your investment is limited. Otherwise, so we have to use new calculation or new models, investment models, business models, and they are not there yet. So we use the old linear investment models on a circular building, and that's not working quite efficiently. So I think that's the biggest barrier at this moment.
In that respect about new business models, probably you also think about that those partners you talked about, that they keep the ownership of
now that's maybe another barrier, because I learned that of the key components of our building, we have to have the ownership as a social housing company. So I can't say that the roof is owned by one of the companies, because in theory he could say, okay, I want my roof back, and then demolishes the roof of the building, and my tenants don't have an actual house anymore. So there are some legal, that's another legal barrier.
Okay. I think we will come with other questions during the presentation of the project of Accord, and Carl already shared his screen with us, so probably give the floor to Carl to tell about the virtual plastic-free apartments.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you and welcome everyone. This was meant to be a study visit to the UK, and we are enjoying fantastic sunny weather. It's meant to be 30 degrees apparently this week. Unfortunately, we're all sat in our own houses rather than seeing these things for real. This is one of a series of events. Tomorrow we've got a session on the social impact for residents at 9:30 UK time, which is 10:30 European time, because we like to be different in the UK. On Thursday there is an Alliance for Sustainable Building Products Dragon's Den on removal of single-use plastics from construction, and there is also in the afternoon the turf cutting of the scheme that I'm going to show, and on Friday we have a virtual tour of the factory starring Tom, who you may have heard speak a little bit before. So Accord's contribution to the Charm project is threefold. It's about a material exchange platform, it's about procurement, but fundamentally it's also about this demonstrator example that I'm going to talk about now, which is our virtually plastic-free apartments, which will, as I say, be starting on site on Thursday. It's part of the Interreg project that Ad has been describing at length on the 2 sessions, and I'm sure we'll again at the start of each of the sessions as we go along. We think it's the UK's first virtually plastic-free homes, but we also think it's probably Europe's first virtually plastic-free homes, because nobody has told us of anybody else doing it anywhere else in the country, in the world, in Europe rather. And the reason that we're doing it is we can't continue business as usual. Accord's main office is based just outside of West Brom on a motorway island. There were repairs being carried out to that motorway island in the last 12 months, and so all of our senior management staff spent their time stuck on a traffic jam, and the Marine Conservation Society had a picture of that turtle eating the plastic bag there, and we thought, well, we can't continue to contribute to this, we need to do something different, and this is how we evolved into the virtually plastic-free housing project. But we shouldn't just focus on single use. People say, why aren't you just focusing on single use? Because you're building a house and a house lasts for centuries. Well, the reality is, whilst the house lasts for centuries, we're continually bashing them about, taking bits out, adding bits, changing bits, stripping bits in and out. So, for example, a heating system in our homes generally lasts about 12 years. A kitchen we plan for 18 years, but very often it's less than that. Bathrooms, 25 years. Windows and doors, 25 years. So very quickly, if we're putting plastic into those components, they're going out into the environment. So we shouldn't just focus on single-use plastic. If we want to change the way we deal with plastic, we need to focus on components of the house that are going to be changed on a regular basis. And that's without looking at how we bash the walls about to add conservatories on, or stick bits on, or take bits off in the way that we do, certainly in the UK, and I suspect in large parts of Europe. The world produces more than 400 billion tonnes of plastic every year. And at the moment, only 9 billion tonnes, only 9% of the 9 billion of that has been recycled. So we're only recycling 9% of the 400 million tonnes that we produce every year. And at current rates of consumption and recycling, there will be around 12 million tonnes of plastic waste in landfill dumps and the environment by 2050. And the problem with that is that a significant percentage of that leaks out into the environment and into the seas. And we've seen marine litter harm over 600 aquatic species, and 99% of seabirds will have ingested plastic by 2050. The annual economic damage to the world's marine ecosystems caused by plastic totals at least £13 billion a year. So we thought, being in the most landlocked part of the UK, as far away from the sea as possible, that we needed to do something to address that. essentially. And we've identified a site. It's in that red line there that you can see where we thought we would try and see how much plastic we could remove from a development. It's right on the edge of Redditch Town Centre. It will form part of a broader regeneration of Redditch Town Centre. The back of the line, just before all the cars you can see, is actually the railway line and railway station for Redditch Town Centre. We're the end of the line at Redditch, just from Birmingham. So people can get their location. This is the development we're going to build. It will be 12 apartments that are virtually plastic free, with communal grounds around the outside. And you there see the elevations and floor plans for the development. It's 12 apartments, 4 apartments on each floor, and we will talk a bit more about it as we go through the presentation. And that's the more detailed layout of the individual plots. You can see that they're self-contained 1-bedroom apartments. We've achieved planning permission on the site to build those apartments. On Thursday, we will have the ceremonial turf cutting with Tom playing with large diggers on the site virtually, and it will take us 12 months to build them, and then there's another 12 months to talk about them and complete our obligations under the Interreg project to disseminate what we've found and what we've learned during the project. That's what it's going to look like when it's built. It's going to be a timber-clad building with a metal roof and some PV solar thermal on the roof in order to provide the heating for the properties. So what are we replacing? The biggest challenge for us was actually the electrical systems in the house, because it is very difficult to find how you can make electricity work without using plastic and to conform with regulations. We've managed to replace cable with mineral insulated copper cable, but there will be switching gear inside the house and utility companies, meter boxes, etc., meters, etc., which will have plastic components in them. We've also managed to replace the plastic insulation that we would have put in the walls. We would put vapor membranes in our timber frame system. We went on a journey a few years ago to work out how we could build low carbon housing, and that journey took us to Scandinavian building methods. It took us to sustainable forests. It took us to reinventing the manufacturing tradition that we had in the West Midlands for cars, to manufacturing houses, and so we started building low carbon timber frame houses as our standard housing product in the West Midlands as Accord Housing Association. But we realised when we were looking at that poster, that turtle, that actually we were wrapping people in a sheet of plastic, because there's a vapour membrane that goes all around those houses to protect from humidity coming into the property. We've managed to design that out using a timber board for insulation and walls. We haven't managed to design it out, though, I have to say, to the DPC, where we need a membrane to stop radiant gas coming up from under the ground. It's invisible and odourless and can kill people, and so we thought it was probably better not to kill people and to keep that membrane in place, and we haven't found a solution to get around that yet. We've managed to take the plastic out of the kitchen. Our kitchens were previously, it appears 100% plastic, and we've managed to take all of the plastic out of those kitchens. Likewise, the plastic in the bathroom, the plastic baths and sinks, etc., have gone to replace with more substantial products, porcelain products. We've managed to change the ventilation system. We've been using heat recovery ventilation system in all of our houses for a while now, because we've been making them airtight in order to be able to get the insulation right, in order to be able to keep people warm, in order to be able to be low carbon. But those ventilation units were plastic ducting connecting to a plastic box going to a plastic vent in the roof, and we've managed to take out most of the plastic apart from the inner workings of the box. So the ducting is going to be metal, the box that it houses it is going to be metal, but there will be some plastic components inside the box. And that's also an example of us working with the supply chain to change their domestic product to address this agenda. How do we make things that are more sustainable, more circular, that will have a reuse and a value after they've finished being built? And also the heating system. We've taken out the plastic from the heating system. We have gone for a solar thermal heating system. So inside the apartments, there will be no plastic, just metal piping and metal tanks. And also the paint on the walls will now be lime and graphene rather than the plasticized paints that we generally use in houses when we're building houses. So we've actually had to look at every element of the house and change the specification. It's incredible that we've gone from a position where 50 years ago plastic wasn't used at all in the construction of a house, and now plastic is used in almost every single component of a house. And that's the big lesson that we've learned from this process, is just how plastic has creeped into almost all components of a property. So we still need to do further work if we are to remove plastic and replace it with more circular products which will have a life after their first use and a value after their first use. First of all, we've not been able to remove plastic from intermittent strips. It's an apartment block, and therefore we have to prioritise fire safety. We want people to be able to live in really good, high quality, affordable homes, but homes that are safe for people to live in. And there are a number of areas where, to ensure that people are safe, there are voids in the timber frame, and there is a strip which expands to close that gap if there is a fire. There are also intermittent strips around doors which expand to close off the gap around the door at a point of fire. We haven't found a natural product yet which does that intermittent capacity that plastic does, and therefore we are using intermittent strips for fire protection. I talked about radiant gas and the need for a radiant gas membrane at floor level to stop any gas sneaking up from the environment. That's a problem of us building in Redditch, which is in the UK, and most of the UK has a problem with radiant gas being able to seep up from the ground, and we haven't found a solution to avoid that risk completely. We have used timber board, or we are going to use timber board insulation for these solutions, but we think there are further developments that could work around insulation and further developments around insulation that could be brought to the market. It's not very advanced yet in terms of taking plastic out. When we started this journey, we were aware, because we've done it when we've been building zero carbon houses, of sheep's wool insulation. We thought that would be the perfect product for us, and we were absolutely astounded when we looked at its materials list and discovered that 20% of it was actually plastic rather than the sheep's wool in order to bind it together. And so we think there is lots of work that could be done to bring more natural products around insulation to the market. And we've been part of a discussion with a number of people and organisations that are looking at bringing mycelium, for example, which is a mushroom-based insulation product to the market, which could offer a more natural alternative to the current plastic-based insulation works that we have. Also, in electric switchgear, we have not yet managed to find an affordable solution to plastic in the fuse boxes, in the plugs, etc., etc. There are alternatives that were used previously around porcelain. We can use metal. We can minimise the amount of plastic in the electrical components by using metal cases and metal covers. But inside the internal gubbins of the electric switchgear, we've struggled to find an affordable alternative to plastic. The stuff that we found was like £70 a switch, which is clearly not affordable for us within our budget of delivering an affordable housing product. So there's further work and further products need to come around electricity switchgear. And also, we have no choice if we're going to connect people to electricity and mains water, but to use the utility meters that are provided by the electricity and water companies in the UK. And they have yet to catch up with this agenda and offer anything other than their standard meters, which have lots of plastic within them. And then finally, tapes. We've been trying to do a lot of work around tapes because we think it should be possible with beeswax and paper to produce a tape that allows the levels of air tightness that we would want that are natural and non-plastic. We have found a silicone which claims to be non-plastic, but we haven't found the tapes that we would want to find that aren't plastic. But we think it is technically possible. It's just a case of trying to encourage the industry to deliver those products rather than to rely on the plastic solutions that they have at the moment. So we've identified our learning of where there are gaps in the market at the moment in the way that we provide zero plastic products. And having said that, we are confident that we can produce a virtually plastic-free home. With the learning that we've got, there will be really nice homes to live in the centre of Redditch, right by the train station. They will look beautiful with some fancy timber that's been pre-burnt to make sure that they're fireproof, with a lovely metal roof and beautiful balconies for people to enjoy on a day like today, looking out across the beautiful North Worcestershire town centre. And by doing that, we will have produced timber-framed homes that have a saving of 65 tonnes of material, preventing from downcycling. There will be the reuse of the timber elements at the end of its life, and we will also have 125 tonnes of material that we will have recycled from the demolition works on the site across the project, and 15 tonnes per dwelling of materials that can be reused going forward. And well, as importantly, we will have 12 households that will be housed in some beautiful, affordable housing in Redditch. And that was my presentation. I will try and see if there are any questions. I'll just need to exit full screen and get back into.
Thank you, Carl. Who is so lucky to live in those dwellings? Are they selected for their sustainable behavior? Or?
They are not selected for their sustainable behavior. They are selected for their housing need. That selection is taking place over the next week or two. And the people that are selected will then be able to personalise their home, and the homes will be run by a cooperative pioneer housing cooperative in Redditch that works with Redditch Cooperative Homes and Accord Housing Association. So the lucky people are just going through the selection process with the local council at the moment around their housing need.
Okay. So thank you very much. Probably there are more technical questions coming in. First, the question was about the costs, of course, and about the life cycle costs, and also the lifespan of those dwellings. Does it differ with, let's say, traditional timber-framed dwellings?
Well, in terms of lifespan, its lifespan will be the same as traditional timber frame, which is the same as a brick built building, and so we are not envisaging any difference in terms of its lifespan. We want the home to be there for 130, 150 years, but when it ceases to be there, there will be materials that can be reused in a way that there wouldn't be if we were building traditionally, or a traditional built timber frame. In terms of the components, one of the things that we've learned is changing from plastic components to more natural components. We're actually putting in more expensive, better quality components into the house, and so we're hoping that they will have a longer lifespan and therefore there'll be a lower maintenance cost in the first 10 to 15 years. We haven't, I have to say, accounted for that in the financial plan of the project, but that's certainly something that we would expect. So, for example, we think the windows will be of higher quality than the plastic windows that we fit, and although plastic windows are meant to last forever, we know that they only last for about 18 years in reality, and so we're hoping that the high quality windows that we put in, which won't be plastic, will last longer. Also, the kitchen worktops, we're not using a composite material with a veneer on the top that's plastic. Will avoid the risk of water seeping in between joints on the worktop and then popping and having to be replaced after a fairly short period of time, which sometimes happens in the homes that we build. And likewise, we think our kitchen cupboards will be more durable than the ones that we currently put into the property, and therefore the kitchen units will need to be replaced after a longer period of time than would otherwise be the case if we were building to our standard specification. So we think, whilst there will be a more expensive upfront cost, and it is expensive, this is our attempt at innovation. What we're trying to see how far we can push the margins here, and there are things that certainly wouldn't go into our standard specification as a result of the learning that we've got today, but are useful for us to learn on this project how they work. We think that we will produce a home that is really good quality for people to live in. It is more expensive, but there are also things that we will learn that produce a saving. So, for example, we'll use a door entry system that relies on smartphones to access the block, given that most people have got one of these that never moves from their side, which will save on wiring, for example. And so there are some elements where we found a cost saving.
Carl, it was my question. Was there a ballpark figure? Bill Hartnett, was there a ballpark figure?
Oh, hello, Bill.
It was my question. Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't managed to look at the questions yet. The answer is it's approximately 23k a unit more expensive than if we were building traditionally. That's the budget figure that we're working to.
That's great. Say, it's the future. I'm really proud of it. A lot of innovation. It was just the unit cost higher, maintenance cycle, and how long it would last. And you've answered all the qualities. That's great. Thanks.
Yeah, and hopefully we'd have more engagement with tenants because it's a cooperative as well. So, yeah.
Another question, Carl, is about the last questions in the chat, I think, about warranty issues. Did you have any warranty issues for this new component?
Well, the answer is one of the things that we set ourselves as part of the target on this is the property we have to be able to draw down finance against this property, which means that we have to be able to get the property warranted. And so a big part of our discussions are the warranties. So, for example, that we did come across a solution that would have got rid of the radiant gas strip, but we couldn't get it warranted because it wasn't guaranteed, and that would have meant we wouldn't then be able to draw down finance on the property. And then when I'd gone to the board and discussed this project with Bill, he wouldn't have accepted us building the development because we wouldn't be able to get the finance in place to complete. So warranties have been important. Everything that we're going to be doing on this property would be warranted in the same way as if we were doing a traditional build, a traditional timber frame build, if there is such a thing.
A standard, yeah.
Probably that's also a question for Marike from Woonbedrijf. Are there any warranty issues in this project glaskring, also probably related to the short lifespan of it, or temporary buildings? Marike?
Yeah, I have to unmute myself and read it. Not that we encountered yet. It's a temporary building, but we're building it as a permanent building. So we have the same part.
Do you have warranty issues by using, let's say, those bio-based materials, or that are not?
No, because we changed maybe things that we were complying with all the regulations.
Okay.
Are there any things that in particular that you were kind of frustrated by that you had to change? Because I imagine there are.
Plaster is my biggest frustration.
Oh yeah, you didn't want to use plaster. Yeah.
I didn't want to use plasterboards, but we didn't until now didn't get the better solution with the same fire safety issues.
Yeah.
So we are using plasterboard now.
Okay.
one of the interesting things of working with, and I apologise for my pronunciation. One of the interesting things of working with Woonbedrijf in this project is how we've approached a similar problem of how do we increase circularity in housing, and things that we thought we don't want to do are things that Woonbedrijf have gone for, and things that we want to do, Woonbedrijf have not wanted to do. So we've had this interesting conversation where we've been saying, so what are you using for the external cladding? And Woonbedrijf is saying, well, we're going for a recycled plastic. And we go, well, we can't do that, obviously. And likewise, inside the house, they've said, what are you doing for fire stopping on the inside of the property? And we go, well, we're going for plasterboard. And Woonbedrijf is saying, well, we can't do that. Obviously, so it's been a really useful discussion to keep us on course with what our ambition is and what our view is and how we're trying to achieve circularity in housing, to have these conversations around specification as part of the European project. It's been very useful in that way, I think.
Yeah.
Indeed, but it also makes it visible how large the scale of circularity is, how big the conversation is, because what's wrong, what's right. Plasterboard isn't right, but we had some different view on it. Of it's right, but with a different view, you get a different conclusion.
Did you have fire issues with that clay board that we were looking at? Was it a clay?
No, it didn't have the right certificates in here yet.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
So then I can use it, but then on fire safety, I don't want to take that kind of risks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we didn't use it because it wasn't warranted either.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, another question from the panel, from the participants, from Volk. If I pronounce it good. How does the solar heating system work? Does it feed
underfloor heating?
And then I don't know what the abbreviation is.
Underfloor heating, I think.
Underfloor heating.
Yeah, it heats a hot water tank. It heats a thermal heat store adjacent to the property, which then feeds hot water around the property to heat. So in many ways, it works similar to a gas central heating system, only without the need for gas.
But I think we'll need buffer tanks in the roof as well, potentially, as well.
Okay.
So that will be 2 tanks per property, probably. Next one.
Yeah.
Omid?
I see a question from Robert.
Oh, yeah.
Have you encountered any issues with combustibility of the wall insulation materials?
Well, I suspect from the conversation you just had with me and Marika, we have to be conscious about combustion issues in how we are developing the solutions that don't use plastic, because although plastic is a combustible material, it can also stop combustion in certain ways by closing gaps, etc. So yes, we've had to consider combustibility, and we've had to consider the fire rating of every material that we've taken out and put back in, to make sure that the timber frame that we're going to put into properties is fire safe. That's particularly important in the UK because we are acutely aware after Grenfell of the problems that can happen if we don't take the issue incredibly seriously. we have solutions which produce a timber frame with exactly the same level of fire safety as if we were building the standard timber frame house, and that has the fire safety protection tests carried out on it, so we don't have any issues there. Having said that, we have kept in intermittent strips within the frame to expand in certain void areas that you have in a timber frame in order to make sure that we have got that fire safety in place. So around the windows where there's a gap in the timber frame, we've got intermittent strips which will expand and close off that void if there's a fire at any point. So yes, we have, and that's one of the areas where we've compromised on getting rid of plastic from the development. Yeah. And Marika will answer.
I mean, I guess there's also like the aspect of kind of taking plastic out and how plastics melt during fires as well, which are quite like and produce toxic fumes in some cases. So that's like another point about like what happens in fire as well. But I know it's a bit kind of strange, but it is a point about fire as well. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I mean,
I think most of the questions have been answered.
Did Marika want to talk on fire safety?
I think it's the same issue as you have. We have encountered.
I want to ask a question about the design for disassembly. What did it mean for your project? What for?
When we adopted our approach to timber frame, we use a closed panel timber frame approach. And whilst there would be sacrificial plasterboard on the internal walls of the property, the rest of the frame could be lifted and placed somewhere else. And that's something that we've done with this construction method on a couple of times. And so there is that dismantle and reuse ability within the frame as a wholesale, as an integral structure of the property. Having said that, we don't think we want to do that. We want our homes to be lived in and to be loved for the next 150, 200 years. And so whilst it's technically possible, we really hope that we don't have to do that, is the answer to the question.
Okay, and for Marika, because you have to disassemble it after 5 years already?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have the same view as Carol, that I would love that it stay there for 100 years, but I don't think it's possible. We work together with our partner who builds the timber frame, and he is also very, how do you call it in English? He knows how to disassemble the frame. So we try to make sure that if the connections between walls and floors, that you can disassemble them much more easily, maybe, than if you want to let the building stay on the same place for many years. But construction and a lot of is more difficult. It's not more difficult, but takes a little bit more effort.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other urgent questions from?
Yeah, we're after 10:30, 11:30, have we lost?
Yeah, otherwise I want to thank, of course, the presenters, Carl and Marika, for their clear presentations about the project. And I want to thank you all to being here. And I want to also to thank all the people who made it possible. Also, I have to thank CHEP. I didn't do that yesterday because they announced all those and worked on this, actually last month. And tomorrow we have another session, I think led by Halima, also here in this, about the social, I pronounce it as a social impact of circularity. And hopefully we will see each other again tomorrow, or otherwise other sessions this week. So see you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.